Hello, Matt. Can you hear me? Yes. Cool. Thank you. I shall mute again now. Hello, thanks for joining. We'll give it another couple of minutes to allow a few people to join us, but we're due to start in the next minute or two. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on communication challenges in shift teams. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you all get something really useful from this webinar, and we really look forward to your feedback. First of all, if you haven't met me before, I'm Chris Pimlott. I am the founder of MyBus Technologies. We specialize in shift working tools and the proud owners of the MyShift Planner and MyShiftManager products for shift working. But there'll be more about all that in a moment. First of all, here's what we'll cover in this session. First of all, I'll be giving you a quick introduction as to who we are and a little bit of background about us. Then I'll be discussing the most common communication issues we hear about from our customers. There'll be some strategies and tools that we'll mention that could help, and also explain why some of these have some obstacles you may want to be addressing. As part of this, I'll be introducing the MyShiftManager shift working tool and demo it. To show you how it can improve communication in your team and give you a better view on what your team are up to. Really important points for if you're trying to manage a shift team. You'll be given the opportunity to get access to a free trial of the MyShiftManager product at the end. And we'll close with a Q&A session where I'll be helped to answer any questions that you may have during the session. If you do have any questions during the session, please add them to the chat window, and my colleague Matt will be on hand to start answering them as I'm talking, and then I'll cover them in more details at the end of the call in the Q&A. The chat window can be found with the small chat icon in the bottom right-hand corner of this webinar window. If you click on it, you'll see the conversation history, and in there you can type any questions. If you're struggling with that, then please do get in contact with us later using the details that we will show you, and you can ask us directly. We'll be able to help you. But first of all, let's get started with a little bit of history as to who we are. So 10 years ago, it all started when a member of my family approached me telling me he was really struggling, and he worked nights and day shifts as a shift worker at a local airport, and he was struggling to spend time with his family and his friends. It was causing lots of issues for him, and he wanted a way of keeping his shift work rota in his pocket, so that when he was talking to friends and family, he could arrange time with them conveniently. He looked on the app stores to see if there was an app for his phone, and there weren't any. So I, as a budding technology person, decided to create him a shift working app specifically for him. It was uploaded to the App Store, and within 3 months, we'd had 10,000 downloads of very happy shift workers telling us just how much difference it had made to their lives. I have to say, it was quite a humbling experience. What it also made me realize is that we really were making a difference in the world of shift working, and that then took me on the path of creating MyBuzz Technologies, the company which owns the product, to help drive the MyShiftPlanner product forward. That was 10 years ago, and within those 10 years, we've learned a lot about shift working. We speak to shift workers and shift team managers on a daily basis, and have done for the past 10 years. We're in almost every country and every industry now. We're one of the top shift working apps on the app stores, and that's given us a lot of coverage in terms of finding out about how each of the industries work and the challenges they face. This webinar is one of the first of a number that we're going to do that will focus on different areas of challenge for shift workers and provide help and advice on those topics. This particular one is all around communication, and I'm looking forward to sharing some insights with you today. MyShiftManager is the shift team sister product of MyShiftPlanner. MyShiftPlanner was created for the shift workers to help them keep their rota in their pocket, provide lots of great tools to help them live a better life. Over the past 10 years, we are now in so many different companies that we started getting inquiries from team managers asking us if we can provide a tool that worked with MyShiftPlanner that allowed them to schedule their teams and provided them with the same kind of benefits that their team were getting from MyShiftPlanner. MyShiftManager is that product. We launched it earlier last year, and it is becoming a very popular tool for shift teams who are taking advantage of the great features that it offers. So that's the history of us. Now on to the actual challenges. So I suspect everyone on this webinar will be familiar with the unique challenges that shift working poses. It's quite a difficult area. It can be for the workers themselves having to actually do the shifts around their life, but also for the managers who have to roster entire teams of people and act fairly for the business and for the individuals. I've highlighted the common causes that we've heard over the past few years from conversations with people. And there are plenty more than the ones I was able to fit on this slide too. But these are the main ones that I will talk about today. The main thing is understanding these challenges is the first step towards addressing them and can make a real difference to your team if they're addressed correctly. So the first of these is information gaps. Information is really important within shift teams, especially as you're switching between different shifts. Information may not be being passed around effectively between the teams, and that can cause all sorts of delays or potential misunderstandings caused by out-of-date information. For example, it could be that important updates about a client aren't passed between the different shifts, even though all of the shifts are affected. Or it could be information about individuals who have contacted the manager of certain shift teams, not passing down into the actual to the shift manager whose shift they will be that will be affected. So information passing is really important to get right. The consistency of that as well is really important. Different teams, it's not unusual even within the same organization to be using different systems. There are lots of communication systems out there, from email to WhatsApp to good old-fashioned pen and paper. And to be honest, the biggest challenges are with verbal communication, verbal handovers. Are the shift teams handing over information effectively to each other when one shift ends? It's really important that each member of the team has the same version of that information for this reason, and that it is correctly managed and audited. Change is inevitable in a shift team. We'll all be aware of that. All it takes is somebody to call in sick, or for somebody to request leave, or for some shift information to not be correctly passed around, and all of a sudden the whole rota can become a challenge. People not turning up to shifts when they're expected to, people not being given the attention that they need, the information that they need, or being granted the leave that they need. All of these kind of issues, they're all to do with communication. And the most important thing is that that roster has to be up to date and accurate. If at any point it isn't, it's no good, because that's when problems start happening, and that's when the managers generally have the biggest headaches. I mentioned auditing before, but auditing and accountability are also a big part of this and very important. Partly because you need to make sure that the correct people are approving different things such as leave and absence and overtime, but also keeping a history of who has given that leave, who has made that change, and who has authorised, because we're all very busy people, shift teams particularly, so it's easy to suddenly forget that you did authorise something, especially when challenged in the middle of the night to try to work this out. So these are just a few of the headaches that can be caused if you use the wrong systems, and understanding these challenges, as I said, is the first step towards addressing them. So to try to put this into context, when we were building our scheduling system, we actually went out and talked to an awful lot of shift managers and shift teams. We had a lot of information from them already, from the 10 years of supporting our many thousands of shift workers. But we wanted to know specifically where the biggest problems were, so that when we created a system to help, we were genuinely helping. These three here were by far the biggest challenge areas, and I'm going to give you a little case study around each one, with obviously the names have been changed on the people that I'm speaking about, but the stories themselves are directly from clients. So sick call. We had one of our clients that we were speaking to works at a local airport in a particular section of the airport, and had a really complex rota because of the nature of airlines and flights. They had 35 people on the rota, which may not seem like a lot, but with the amount of change that happens within an airline team, that actually becomes quite a big challenge on its own. She had a number of long-term sick issues that she was dealing with certain members of the team, and that was, of course, a challenge for her in terms of coverage, but it was more the short-term absenteeism that was causing her the biggest headache. The minute that somebody called in sick, her process was that she'd wheel out her Excel spreadsheet, that was her entire rotating system at the time. She'd scour through it to see who might be available, and then she'd start a good old ring around of calling all of the people who look like they should be available according to the roster, and try to find somebody to fill, usually with very little notice. This obviously was a big problem, and she estimated that she was spending around 3 or 4 hours a day just doing admin work like this that she felt she didn't need to be doing. She needed a faster, more immediate method of seeing who was available. I had to be up to date and accurate, and then a system for offering out those shifts and updating the rota as quickly and easily as possible, ideally with all of this being automated. So this is one of the areas that we focused on with MyShiftManager, and I'll be able to demonstrate that soon. The second case was the missed annual leave request. Now this was related to a guy I'll call Dave. He worked in a small team within a much larger organisation, a very big, well-known organisation. The systems they were using were basically Excel spreadsheets again to manage their roster. They had other systems that were introduced by the bigger organisation, but they weren't really very good for shift teams. They were more tailored to standard 9 to 5 contract working, and so he had his own solutions in place, but very quickly started having problems with it. He told us he told us about a nightmare occasion when one of his engineers didn't show up for work. They use WhatsApp messages to communicate. He was busy trying to get hold of him through WhatsApp. He tried calling him. He tried basically everything he could think of to get hold of the guy, and he couldn't find out where he was or why he hadn't turned up for work. It turns out that this guy had booked holiday and was currently on a beach somewhere out of communication range. The guy had actually arranged it with a manager and followed all of the correct processes, but not with Dave. He'd arranged it with the shift manager at the time, who had authorization to approve leave, but he hadn't made the changes to the Excel spreadsheet or taken any notes anywhere about the fact that this leave had been approved and was going ahead. As such, Dave had no idea that this person was on leave and the spreadsheet was out of date. As it happened, it didn't help that the shift manager actually denied all knowledge of this to cover his own back, who knows. But with a proper auditing system in place, this wouldn't have been an issue. There was no way of tracking it back to find out exactly who said what and who approved what. And with the spreadsheet not being up to date, there was no way of knowing that this leave was going ahead. Dave, when he spoke to us, he was looking for an automated way of people being able to request leave, an easy way of leave requests not being missed by the shift managers so that they could approve them. And obviously then for that change to take effect in the scheduler automatically with a full audit trail. So this is another area that we focused MyShiftManager on. And the final one, information overload. Shifts move quickly, shift teams move quickly, shift managers have to deal with lots of change. You'll all be very familiar with this, no doubt. This particular case, a lady I'll call Sally, she was managing a care team. She was using WhatsApp as her main communication channel and for most of her scheduling. She said it kind of worked with the team size that she had, but what she found was that same channel in WhatsApp was being used to chat about all sorts of different topics. So the problem is that when somebody sends a message, it's easy for it to get lost. And what happened was that she'd had a number of times where messages from her workers about them not being available or needing to take reporting sick or needing to take leave had just been lost amongst that WhatsApp channel. If you've ever had a friend's WhatsApp channel, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. And it's just kind of organized chaos, really. So she was being bombarded with information. It was really difficult to keep track of what was happening. She tried lots of other systems, tried taking notes, keeping notes and everything else, but the fast flowing of that information just kind of didn't work very well for her. Because of that, she missed really important things. She was unable to keep the roster up to date, and in some cases, it ended up with some almost missing visits to the clients who they were providing care for, and that's really something that it needs to be avoided. So she spoke to us. She expressed these and her challenges here, and a big part of this was taken on board when we first introduced MyShiftManager. So hopefully one of these case studies will resonate with you. There were lots and lots of other stories. I could sit here and tell you stories for the next 2 hours about the things that we've heard, the horror stories and some of the challenges, but hopefully that was there was something there that you can relate to. In terms of technologies people are using, I've mentioned a few: WhatsApp, for example, Excel spreadsheets, etc. I mean, there's lots of them that people are using to manage shift teams today. We've even heard of a team who have been using a standard household wall calendar on their wall in their office to manage their teams with. So people generally are using the tools that they have at their disposal. And each of these kind of do solve the problem in part of a way, really. Paper-based systems can be effective if everybody's always in the office. They're easy to change and manage. Communication platforms, they are widely used. You can get instant responses. It's very real time and great for conversing with your teams and having some kind of an audit trail in a basic form of what's been going on. You can obviously use online cloud storage to share things like your Excel spreadsheet around, and obviously you have things like Google Calendar, Outlook, etc., which can be shared with multiple people. But each one of those in their own right isn't enough, particularly around like security, making sure people have the correct access to the correct tools and don't have too much access, and actually being able to make sure that ultimately the original vision of My Shift Planner, how we created, actually still holds, which is your team needs to have their rota in their pockets so that they can live their shift life around, they can live their shift life and their work life in balance, make sure that neither one of them negatively affects the other. From the manager's point of view, the same thing stands. They need a good tool to be able to manage their team and everything about that job that they're trying to do. Scheduling software is a great way of going ahead with this. There are a number of different scheduling softwares out there. MyShiftManager, obviously, is the one that we created. The main ethos on this, on MyShiftManager, is that we wanted to create something that was a very good scheduling tool that did the job and did a really good job of the job. It had to integrate with My Shift Planner. Obviously, that's one of the big benefits, as it's the only tool on the market that does. And we didn't want to add lots of clutter around the outside. One of the biggest challenges that we'd heard about people trying to use other scheduling software was that it's not just the scheduling software they get. They get the HR, they get the payroll, they get all of the stuff around the outside that they may not be interested in. So they wanted, and it made it more complicated to learn. It made it difficult to adopt within the teams. And this is why MyShiftManager is a great option, especially if you're a relatively small team within a big organization who maybe have their own tools for different parts of this, and you just need good scheduling. Or if you're a team who just wants a great solution that works well with My Shift Planner, MyShiftManager is definitely worth a look. So I'm now going to switch to the demo portion of this webinar. I hope that was interesting so far. I'm just going to switch screens, so I will be taking myself off camera for a moment, but I'll still be here. Remember, if you have any questions, please add them to the chat window and my colleague will be happy to answer them for you while I'm talking and running the demo. So now I'm going to share my full screen. And from here, you'll be able to see both my Shift Planner on the right and my Shift Manager, the web-based system, on the left. A quick introduction to my Shift Manager for those who haven't seen it, and then I will take you through each one of those case studies I mentioned earlier and show you how my Shift Manager is a great solution for that and why those clients I mentioned are really enjoying using my Shift Manager and my Shift Planner within their teams. So the tool itself is very simple. It's a web-based solution, and it's accessible from any desktop and from your mobile phone. It's designed for managers, but you can provide different levels of access for different people within your team, so that they can control whatever you want without having too much access. For example, people could just access the leave management system part of the system, or they can only see their own rosters, or they can manage the whole thing. It's completely up to you. It's very flexible. And each of the sections down the left-hand side of the product will take you into a different area. The two that you'll spend most of your time in when you're using the system is the dashboard, which is the one I will talk about in a second, and then the scheduler, which is where you set up your main roster. The other areas give you access to your list of your team members, access to annual leave and leave requests, some reporting capabilities, the help, and obviously some configuration options within the More tab as well. So in terms of each of the different case studies, let's talk about the sick call. So Brenda, local airport, one of her biggest challenges was around absenteeism and trying to find out who's available to cover shifts very quickly. So first of all, the live view that you receive in the dashboard, this is always up to date according to the roster. The roster itself, you'll see under the schedule tab, it has all of the shifts that everybody is working, and any changes that are made to here are automatically reflected on the dashboard, so you can see exactly what's going on right now. We also draw out some KPIs, which are really useful, so you can see the information you need right away. In the case of Brenda, she needed to see who was available very quickly. So we have an available today tab. We have an available today widget on the dashboard. In the widget, it lists all the people. In this case, we have 7 of them that are available today. If they were working a shift at any point today, it would tell you when they're available, so that potentially they could take a later or an earlier shift around the one that they're doing if they're able to do so. It's also really other information that would be really useful to Brenda is such as who's working today, if she needed to see in case there were any conflicts, certain people who shouldn't be working together maybe, or people that she knows are doing longer shifts and therefore can't pick up another shift even if they are technically available. And also if there's anybody who is away for any reason, either on leave or absent through sickness, that is also shown on here. And again, this is all live and up to date. So from here, Brenda will have been able to go in and fill that gap. So first of all, somebody's called in sick. So as an example, let's say that Felix Leiter has called in sick and he was due to work a late shift. You can see here that Felix has a late shift. Now, it's really easy to be able to reassign or unassign that shift once you've had the sick notification. You simply right-click on it, and then you can either unassign Felix, which will make the shift open and available to pick up by his colleagues as overtime, should they wish to, or if you know who it is who is going to be assigned to that shift because you've found somebody else, then you can simply reassign. So in this case, Dimitri is going to pick the shift up, so I will move it to Dimitri. It really is that simple. If you wish to as well, you can actually mark Felix as off sick. To do that and to add anything to the schedule, you simply click the top right-hand plus button, and you'll see a panel at the bottom with all your different shift types and with your different leave types on here. Simply dropping a sick onto Felix's day will mark him as off sick. What it also does is it will update the reporting, so you can then keep track of how many days sick Felix has had over different periods, if that's something you want to track through here. And it will also take him off any recommendations if you want to start rostering shifts to people today for other reasons. Felix obviously will no longer be available to pick up shifts, so it will help you to make sure your roster is always correct. So a quick note here, if you have made changes to the roster, then by default they are in a kind of design mode. So you'll see like the sick shift I have added to Felix is striped. That is just to give you an idea of any changes that you have yet to publish. This is completely deliberate so that you can make changes without affecting your team. But when you're ready, you simply hit publish. And you can either publish silently or publish and notify, and that will update the rosters of all of those people affected. So that's a very quick example there of how to mark somebody as sick and to reassign that shift and to make sure that everybody's happy. The great thing with that now is by just spending just a minute there, just making that change, that the roster changes have now been distributed. Anybody who's affected will be aware of the change, and then my Shift Planner app will have been automatically updated with those changes. So everything is completely up to date and mistakes will not be made. There's a full auditing trail as well in the background that you can access, which in case anybody questions who it was who marked a mistake. The next use case I just want to talk about briefly is Dave and his missing annual leave request. So annual leave can be requested by the worker really easily. They can either do it through the web login in the MyShiftManager tool, or they can do it through their MyShift Planner app. There's a nice useful leave tab. in My Shift Planner, and that will then show them all the annual leave requests that they have in the system and any that are coming up that may not have been approved yet. So here are some I created earlier to give you an idea. On the 4th of November to the 8th of November, so it's 5 days for a family break. That was the request that was raised by Jack Crack, who's my shift planner this is. And you'll see there are a number of different leave requests here on the dashboard. So the great thing is the managers can simply come into here, like Dave in the case of our example. He can come into here and he can immediately see the things that he needs to do. And these aren't scattered around on the desk in bits of paper or written in notes or in emails. This is all together in one place. And you can very quickly go through and have a look at those request details and either approve or reject them. So he can very simply say for the November leave, absolutely yes. Jack, you can have that week off. That will then approve it and it will then message Jack to let him know. He will receive a push notification to his mobile phone to tell him that the leave has been approved. He'll receive an email to tell him that the leave has been approved so that there is no way that he can not know that it was approved. It's just publishing at the moment through here, but you will see if I return back to the My Shift Planner app, you'll see it'll pull the changes and they'll be notified that the changes have happened. In the scheduler, if we go to November, I can't remember which week it was, but we'll soon find out. There you go. You'll find that the 5 days of leave have automatically been added into the scheduler as annual leave. If Jack was actually scheduled to work on those days, those shifts would automatically be unassigned and moved into the top row so that you can quickly see that each of those shifts need to be reassigned to somebody else, and you will see all of that on the dashboard as well so you can keep track of the things that need to be done. You can also deny leave if you wish to and give a reason and manage it all completely within the system. The great thing with that is it means there's a full audit trail of the leave, who approved it, when it was approved. It will obviously manage the actual leave entries. It will put the leave entries into the spreadsheet, which was one of the issues Dave had, which is where the spreadsheet itself wasn't updated, even though the approval had been given. By using a single system like this, everything is managed for you and it's all automated. You'll also see on here that shift swaps can be done in the same way. So users can request swaps through their My Shift Planner app or through the web login. If they can't work a shift or don't want a shift, they can choose who they wish to swap with, and that will be available here as well. There's a full approval system built in around that, and when you approve or reject that swap, it's actioned and communicated back through. So if I approve, for example, Felix Leiter and Jeremy Smith's shift swap, then that would again automatically update the rotor. It will manage it all for you so mistakes aren't made, which is really important. It's all about consistency. So in terms of our cases, that is the majority of the solution for those cases. I mean, MyShiftManager does an awful lot more than this. So if there's anything in particular that you'd like to see, or there's anything in particular you'd like to know about the system, please do ask again in the chat window, and I'll be more than happy to take you through other bits of the system to show you how it works. So please do ask your questions in the chat, and I will happily answer them and run more specific demos should you wish. You can also, if you like to, you can request a personal demo from me. It's something that we offer. It's around 30 minutes and with no obligations, and I will take you through a direct demo and show you exactly the things that you need in terms of what you'll have to get from a solution to replace what you already have. You can book those through the website. Or there will be a link also included in the email you'll receive after this webinar. Okay, so in terms of a MyShiftManager, that will hopefully give you an idea of what it's capable of, and will help you to understand how these different clients of ours have actually gained real benefit from this system. Just going to switch back to the slides now. Okay, so in summary, what are the benefits of live scheduling versus a combination or collection of other systems? Well, first of all, real-time updates. You saw there that pretty much everything, every change that I made was all visible and available in the system. The dashboard had lots of great information in there. It had tools allowing me to manage different requests coming in. It's the virtual desktop of the Shift Manager. But the main thing is it's all live, and when things are approved, when changes are made, those changes are instantly updated, and everybody who is affected by those changes are informed, which is a really important thing. It's really flexible as well. I've only shown you the default configuration and the default company, but it's a very configurable system, and it can do an awful lot more than I demonstrated, including lots of different ways of managing change. It's all tracked, it's all audited internally, so that there is no more problems with people claiming that they didn't do things that they did, because the system is constantly tracking them and keeping logs. So that definitely helps with that problem. And it's a great way of you collaborating a lot more with your team. In a lot of the setups, a lot of the clients that we have, they will provide access to the scheduler, to their entire team with read-only restrictions on it, so that everybody can see what is going on. Yeah. So I've just a question just come in. I've just noticed around shift swaps. I will answer that in a second when we get onto the Q&A part of the call, but it's a very good question. The main thing here is it's the visibility of it all, and the fact that there's a lot of self-service built into both the MyShift Planner and MyShiftManager app. That's a key important feature here. It takes away a lot of the different communication interaction issues. So that is the end of the demo side of the call. I just want to remind everybody on here of our offer. We offer a 30-day free trial of MyShiftManager. It is a credit card-less trial, which means that you don't need to put your credit card in to try it. So there are literally no reasons at all why you shouldn't just use this link, set yourself up an account, and just have a play for yourself. As you're going through, you can easily ask for help if you have questions around how to use it, or you need some assistance setting up. Then I am more than happy to. I'm more than happy to take you through, as is my colleague in the support team, and get the most from this. So this link will be shared out after this webinar is finished, along with lots of other useful information. So please do take advantage of this and try it out for yourself. So now onto the questions portion. So looking here, there are lots of questions. There seems to be a lot of questions around how shift working in teams. Shift swapping within teams. How team workers swap with each other, so the manager can see and approve it without ringing everybody. Yep, that's no problem. I will just jump back to the demo setup for a second, and I can show you exactly how this works. So the way that this works is that the team members themselves, in fact, I will switch to the worker view. So each team member can see either through the web login or through the MyShift app all of their shifts, obviously. And if there is a shift that they are unable to do, such as the one on Saturday the 3rd, they can select it, request a swap, And at this point, you can choose who to swap with. Now, more often than not in shift teams, the individuals will have had a chat with each other just to work out who may be able to take the shift. And so therefore they'll have an idea. If not, they can speak to the manager and the manager can help them work that out, or they can perform the swap directly anyway through the scheduling tab. But let's say, for example, Jack Crack is going to take on this shift. Now we have a system in here. You can either opt to pay back that swap, that shift swap in future at the time determined by the individuals involved, or you can have agreed already that, if you're going to take this swap for me on the 3rd, then can you please take my night shift on the 5th? And if that's the case, and they know which shift is going to be worked in payback, then they can choose it here. Really simple, just takes them through the steps. If there's a comment or a reason, then they can be entered into here. And again, it just provides more information from the auditing and for the managers to be able to make the decision. Once that's submitted, a push notification is sent to the user's phone, which unfortunately you can't see through this demo setup because of the way I'm sharing it, to tell them that a swap has been requested, and that then requires the other party, Jack Crack in this case, to go in and see the requests that have been made. Unfortunately, this isn't a Jack Crack setup. I'm not logged in as him, but in this section, in the requests in the inbox, he would see a list of the different shifts that he's been asked to swap with, and he can then see the details and then accept or reject. So it provides the way of the two parties agreeing this to avoid the system being abused. Once that has been done, and only when that has been done and it's been approved by both parties, the manager then will see it in their pending shift swap requests, at which point they can then approve the swap or reject it. That's between the 3rd and the 5th. Again, push notifications are sent and emails are sent to both parties to let them know that the shift changes have been made. The shift swap actually occurs and the rotor is automatically sent to all of the individuals. So if we now go to where was it? It was the 3rd, and it was between. So Jack Crack is now working that late shift. That Simon Manager was due to be working, so you'll see it's been removed from Simon Manager, been reassigned to Jack Crack. So he's taken a days and a late with a conflict. So obviously there's a challenge there. However, that whole thing has been approved. This is why the manager gets visibility to be able to check this before they approve it. And in real world case, I wouldn't have just approved it. I would have checked it first. However, that's been done, that's been published, and you will see that because this is Jack Crack who's logged into the MyShiftPlanner app here, you'll see that the days and the late have automatically updated and are now both visible. So that's how shift swapping works in the system and how it provides you with that level of approval that is really important in these kind of shift teams. You'll also see that some extra tabs have appeared. The reason for that is because the manager, because I'm logged in as a manager, obviously I need to see all management related tools, but also because I may also be a shift worker, I also need to be able to see my own rotors and be able to raise requests for myself. If by switching between the two different parts of the system, I'll be able to get access to act as either a worker to manage my own shifts, which is what this area is here, or and deal with requests, or I can switch into the main scheduler and deal with it. So it allows you to very quickly just jump around the system to do what you need without too many problems. Okay. Another question just come in. Can more than one manager approve annual leave? Yes, absolutely. So the way that approval is set up is really simple. Everybody within your team, including the managers, the workers, and administrators, are all in this list of people, and they can all be assigned permissions. So look at Assignment Manager, who is the manager I'm logged in as, you'll see here there's lots of permissions. I've got them all turned on for myself, but one of the ones at the bottom is Manage Leave. If that's turned on, that means the person who the account this is can manage annual leave. Now, you may have different ways of doing this within your organization, so we have lots of flexible ways of managing this. This particular demo setup has only a single level of approval, which means that there aren't any special cases here, and anybody with managed leave permission can approve any annual leave request. However, if you have multiple teams within your organization, and each team has a specific team approver who can only approve leave within their own team, and then maybe a final approver, like a more senior manager, who can then give final approval. The system also supports doing that as well, just as easily. Again, this is one of the conversations. If you would like some assistance getting set up the way that you work, then please do talk to us, and I'll be happy to assist with that. We have another question that I've just seen, which is asking about what happens after the trial. Well, that's a very good question. So the trial will run for 30 days, and you get full access to the system and all of the features for 30 days. At the end of that period, you'll be told in plenty of time that your trial is due to end and you need to make a decision. The decision is whether you wish to turn it into a paid subscription. At that point, there's a link to contact us to speak to us, and we will then be able to provide you with an accurate quote specifically for yourselves. We are going to be introducing a more direct way of making purchases and continuing, but that is something we're just currently working on at the moment. However, the benefit of talking to us about this is it means that we can offer deals based on your specific setup. The way that we charge for MyShiftManager is license-based, so the number of people you have using the system affects the price, and we also offer monthly and annual price offers depending on how you'd wish to pay. Again, the best thing to do is to come and have a chat with us, and I'll be more than happy to discuss what deal works best for you at that point. But the first thing I would recommend is grab the trial, take a look, ask questions. Please do talk to us. We're here to help, and we'll be more than happy to assist so that you get the most out of MyShiftManager. If I just wait for see if there are any more questions. Obviously, I've done a good job of the demo because there are no questions. Okay, so there's just one quick one around reporting. Reporting is available throughout the system. Anywhere you'll see an export button, like you can see at the bottom of each of the widgets, that allows you to export that particular view to Excel, so you can then take that, share it around, produce pivot charts or whatever it is you want to do with them, and that's available on every screen. You'll also see lots of totals underneath the columns and the rows on all of the tabular views and in the reports tab, and this is telling you how many hours have been worked for each of those individuals. So in the scheduler, that's just it's there to give you an indication of what how many hours that person has worked to make sure they haven't worked more than they should do. And in the reports tab, there's even more of this. There is some pre-created views in here, reports in here that we have supplied, but there are lots of ways of getting extra information. In this case, for example, in the shift hours, you can see what hours people have worked and the totals. There is a report that breaks that down based on working annual leave, sickness, special leave, etc., so that you can see how many hours or days of leave each of your members of your team have taken, or how much annual leave they've taken, so you can keep track of it here. And again, export any of these to Excel for any date range that works for you. There's also a number of different reporting periods that you can choose from, depending on how you want to work, including the pay period, which you define the start and end of to align with your pay when you normally pay. Therefore, you can use these totals to drive your payroll. So as much as we don't have direct payroll integration at the moment, you can still use the information from here to drive your pay calculations. There's also some other useful ones that break down by shift types, and again, all exportable. So in terms of reporting, there's an awful lot of reporting capability throughout the system, but we've kept it really flexible so that it can be used for almost any circumstance that you need. Okay, I'll just give it another minute to see if any more questions come in, and then I'll close the call and let everybody get back to their day. Okay, well, at that point, I'd like to thank everybody on the call for joining us today. It's been really good to be able to present to you. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found it useful. We'll be sharing this recording via YouTube to you all on an email after this webinar is completed, along with details of how to contact us, how to get access to the trial, and some other useful information that you may find useful about MyShiftManager and us. On behalf of myself and my colleague Matt, who's been diligently answering questions, and the rest of the MyBoss Technologies team, I'd like to thank you again for joining us today, and I wish you all a very good rest of your day. Thank you.